TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Well, what happened then actually was, when you're a heel and you work in big markets, Philly, Chicago, LA, New York, there's always heel fans, and so after a certain number of years, they just started liking Razor.
Yeah.
So Vince told me that, the fans are starting to turn you. So he said, we're going to have to address it. So the first thing they did was in Madison Square Garden, Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champ. He was a heel, Razor was a heel, and we traveled together. We hung out together. We were great friends. And they put us two heels against each other in the Garden just to see what the crowd would do.
Wow.
And it was kind of cool because we didn't know what to expect because we'd both been major heels in the building before.
Yeah.
And now we're both in there with each other. And Shawn is super talented and a pretty boy. I kind of thought I'd be the heel. I thought for sure that they were going to like him.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But it was even at the beginning. And then Shawn has just got that natural cockiness. Now, I'm pretty cocky too, but I just assumed that because I was bigger and like rougher looking, I'd be the heel. It didn't work out that way. And all of a sudden, because we discussed it, they started going, Razor, Razor. And I remember Shawn telling me in the ring that, because Kurt Hennig taught me, you never go to the people. Like, if they're cheering, you don't go to them like cheerlead.
Yeah.
You just glance. So Shawn said, they started coming with me. And so Shawn said, look like you're surprised. So I went like, and then they went louder. I went like, me? And they went, right. And they started going, so then I went, well, all right,
Yeah.
And it was that was the first test. And what they did with the kid was, Vince called me in and said, listen, okay, we have to turn you babyface. He said, but I don't want to do the same old thing where you run in and save somebody. He said, we got this kid weighs 120 pounds soaking wet.
Huh.
Now, I had seen Kid on Global Wrestling out of Texas, and I went, Lightning Kid? And he goes, you know him? And I went, no. But I remember seeing Kid do this thing on TV, because down there they had a 20 count on the outside.
I remember.
So kids, I remember watching TV, and here's this kid, he looks like a stick figure. He looks like he's 11, but he can go, and he's a natural heel. He's on the outside, and they got this old referee, the old dude. So the guy's going 7, 8. So Kid just lays down on the floor like this, and the guy, like a prick, going, "Go ahead, old man." Made the guy count 18, 19. Then he rolled in, and it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. It was like I was talking about with Larry with the Broadway. It was a detail that you go, "Wow, that guy's really smart," because that's good shit right there.
Yeah.
What a little prick. So it registered in my mind. So Vince said, well, what we're going to do is going to have this guy beat you on Raw. And we were the first angle on Raw, me and Kid. And he said, I'm going to have this guy beat you. And he told me this 6 months before we did it. He said, we're going to have him beat you. Then you're going to offer him, each week you're going to offer him more money till we get up to about 10 grand. Then the kid's going to steal the money. He's not going to beat you again, but he's going to steal the money and get away, run away. He said, then what we'll do is, every time a heel does an interview about his opponent, he's going to close by going, speaking of losers, that Razor Ramon, what a loser. Man, that kid's beat him, then he stole his money. And he said, that's going to work. He said, that's going to turn the people where they'll go, well, we don't like you, Razor, but you don't have to take that. And then he went, I think you'll work with Ted DiBiase at SummerSlam, just beat him with your finish. And that's what we did.
Wow.
It was Teddy's last match in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of the best things I ever had in my career, because it was so cool because no one's ever been turned that way before. You always run in and save like all of a sudden the people just started going like they didn't like me, but the other heels started burying me, and their fans kind of went, well, we don't like you, Razor, but man, he's talking smack about you. Yeah. And so it was just really a cool thing to be a part of. Vince is a smart guy.
That night that he pinned you is still one of the most remembered moments on Raw, even to this day, years later.
What's so funny to me is that years later when I met guys like Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrero in WCW, they saw it in Mexico, and they thought because of the way the moonsault happened, it looked like kid's knee hit me.
Oh,
They thought it was a shoot. They thought I was knocked out. I remember leaving the Manhattan. I mean, when I left the ring in the Manhattan Center, going upstairs to the dressing room, and Papa Sean and guys come to me going, "Man, did you fail a piss test? Are you fired?"
Wow.
And I knew about 6 months before. I just didn't tell anybody because Vince said, "Don't tell anybody because it won't work if you tell people." But I'm just glad that it happened, and then to have Kid go on to be such a dear friend of mine is even cooler. Because like if he wasn't such a cool guy, like I would have hated to do it and then have the guy turn out to be like a jack off.
Right.
I mean, Kid had a room in a hotel down the street, and he slept in my room last night. You know, I mean, he's this little psycho. He comes and visits me. He came for a weekend, stayed for a week at my house in Florida. You know, he's the kid. You know?
TitleMatchNetwork.com